Hey, Tom.
Hey, JC.
So, we talked about recording yesterday, and we waited 24 hours. And boy, it's a good thing we did.
Yeah, just miscellaneous talk about Vancouver hockey just ended up getting in the way, and we're really blessed that it did because we have a lot more content to talk about this week.
Instead of you listening to us ramble on about Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay going at each other on Twitter for an hour, now you get to listen to us talk about Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff returning to WWE television creative in the year 2019.
The year of our Lord.
I think Ryan Satin had a tweet today that was like, so Bischoff and Heyman are back in creative positions in wrestling. There's a new Aladdin, Lion King, and Terminator movie. I think we're back in the 90s. Oh, yep. and Pizza Hut's using their old logo again. That was the other piece of it. I was like, oh, God, you're right.
I mean, New Coke is back, but that's an 80s thing. So.
Yeah. Any other 90s stuff coming back? I don't know. The 90s were great. So, at least for me.
For wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, so. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Half of it.
Yeah. So we got a lot to go through. We got those things, both of those things. Fighter Fest is coming up this Saturday. Tom, how hype are you for Fighter Fest?
I have heard of this event.
So yeah, that'll be the extent of that coverage when I run through that card. And yeah, and other hilarities will ensue. Right?
As it often happens.
As always. So let's kick this thing off. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Can you do me a favor first?
What do we do again?
Ring the bell.
Will do.
You're listening to the Cheaters Never Pin podcast, a proud part of the Section 328 network, bringing you all the best in wrestling from WWE, New Japan, and beyond. Now, live from ringside, it's Mr. Workrate and JC.
Oh, buddies! It's the Cheaters Never Pin podcast. My name is JC. Here next to me at the commentary table to the stars is my good buddy, Mr. Workrate, Tom.
Great to be here as always, JC.
Isn't it? So
even with my voice cracking there for some reason.
It's all right. It's the 90s. You're going through puberty again.
Yeah, let's say that's how old I am.
See, look at me. See, I didn't want to make the old joke, so I went with saying you're young today, Tom. It's a new era.
It's cool,
right?
Yeah.
See? Yeah. As soon as I started playing the intro, I realized what I actually wanted to do for the cold open and totally forgot about.
That's how we do things.
So, CWF Mid-Atlantic, which is 45 minutes from here in Gibsonville or wherever they are.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, something like that. They're around here somewhere. It's a good plug, solid plug. They do a great YouTube show every week, though. You should watch it.
Okay.
So they of course have a school, and I was looking at their website, and they were talking about this thing where you can do fantasy camp. So I emailed them, Tom.
Oh yeah, you did mention this to me. That's
yes.
Right.
So I got an email back, and they're like, "Well, fantasy camps are mainly for kids, but if you want like a 100 level course, like intro to wrestling, learn our warm ups, learn how to take a bump, learn a few holds. It's $100 for 2 hours."
That's not bad.
That's what I thought. So Tom, I think we have content soon.
I mean, one of us has to do it, the other one has to record, and one of us has oldness and a broken leg. So.
Yeah, I figure you're gonna have to come bring the you're gonna have to drive the broadcast truck.
Yeah,
because I refuse to drive in the Section 328 broadcast truck too much after 2 years ago. I'm still scarred.
No, I was gonna say there's still old sheets containers from
right.
What was it?
But yeah, so that may happen soon.
I'm excited for this. I want full content. I want videos. I want YouTube. I want write-ups.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know, because I wrote them too, and I was like, I think it'd be really cool, like as a fan, to learn how to take a bump, like see what it's actually like. Because I respect that that's not a fun thing to do 300 nights a year unless you absolutely love it, but I'd like to experience it once so I can have a whole new respect for it.
I think going into it too, I mean, it depends on how you go into it. If you go into it, like I know that you will, in that, that you're accepting of the business and you appreciate what these guys do, I think it could be a very enlightening, interesting experience. If you were to go into it, like I can imagine some of these people might with, I know everything or this is all fake type thing. You're going to get something broken. I
just don't want to get stretched. That's my worry. I'm like, what if they're just like, look at this,
you'll get stretched.
Look at this goofy asshole. So I'm going to start my DDP yoga training, so maybe it won't be as bad. Get back into that. All right. So let's dive into the big news of the day. He's back and better than ever. Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman have been named executive directors of SmackDown and Raw, respectively. Didn't see that.
Do we know what that means?
So I spent all evening kind of reading every possible article from every dirt sheet and news outlet I could to try to piece together the story here. So the executive director is an actual executive level decision that they had to go to the board of directors to have authorized to create. So it's a high up position.
The one thing that I had seen somewhere, and I don't remember where it was, so I'm kind of talking out of my butt right now, is that it essentially is on the same level as Triple H is with NXT.
Correct. Yep. That's basically the idea. So they'll oversee creative and all of the aspects of their respective brand and report to Vince.
So see, that in my eyes, at least going back in the more olden days, is basically the booker.
Right. I mean,
you're going over everything. You're driving storylines. You're directing storylines. Now, writers are still going to write, but I mean, you're basically booking the direction of the company. This is who's going to be. Excuse me, jeez. That's going to sound wonderful on the.
I can't wait.
Playback, but that's what I get for drinking soda instead of water before the show. So when you're setting up this booking, this is who the champion's going to be, for the 3 months here, for the 6 months there, that type of thing, instead of what just seemed to be the open-ended booking of this is what we're going to do now, and it could be something completely new next week. These are two people with full-blown experience booking, or at least directing long-term, like wrestling organizations. I mean, say what you will about Bischoff. For a period of time, WCW was the show.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he led them to do money. He got them to do what no one else has ever did before or did after, and that's top Vince McMahon.
Right.
So so that's their position. I wonder if it's almost like a transfer of power if Vince is slowly starting to especially with the XFL starting to get more and more, they're running all their practices, or not practices, but their kind of scouting stuff and all right now. I think they're calling them XFL Showcase in each city, and everybody's starting to hire more coaches and more of the business aspects of each team. Is he slowly starting to let go of the reins on that so he can run Alpha Entertainment and WWE from a business perspective now?
And I mean, is that what was kind of being introduced here too? Because we were I wouldn't say necessarily concerned, but there was the question of what's going to happen since Vince. It almost like 5-7 years ago, it almost seemed like Vince was kind of pulling back a little bit and going, okay, I've got people running the show here, because Vince was very extremely hands-on, constantly in guerrilla, overseeing everything type person for a long time, and then it seemed like, okay, well, I'll be there when I need to be there type thing.
Right.
But it seemed more recently like he was back to being the hands-on guy, where everything kind of had to go through him, and the whole Moxley Ambrose type interview about hearing how all these things kind of had to go through Vince, or Vince was writing stuff. If you didn't necessarily like the stuff that the script writers were putting out, Vince would write something himself. Vince was getting in the middle of this again, and it just seemed like it was almost going backwards, because there were rumors like, oh, well, it seems like Triple H is getting a little bit more influence in it because NXT is doing so well. And it started to backpedal again. So with the whole XFL thing coming up and how hands-on he was with the XFL the last time around, it was, oh God, he's going to burn himself out. And this isn't 20 years ago. You know, this is now, like, it was one thing when he was the genetic freak 50-something-year-old guy that was, you know, up 20 hours a day and just doing all this stuff. But now he's 73 or whatever, how old he is now.
That's right.
So it was a question of how he was going to be this hands-on with the wrestling product and the XFL, and, you know, constantly being in both. So maybe this was coming anyway, but then the issues with creative and all this kind of publicity coming out of the Moxley interview and everything kind of forced the hand a little bit as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it feels that way, right? I think the timing of everything has worked out to where it seems like a very reactionary thing. And I think maybe that's the case a little bit, because I could see them saying, all right, our TV contracts start in October. That's when this is going to start. But doing it now in the middle of the summer, and maybe the idea too there is, all right, let's give Bischoff and Heyman the reins, let them, you know, slowly get back up to speed, let them start to work their magic, and then by the time October hits and we're in those contracts, they're full steam ahead, right? And I think too, with the XFL thing, Vince is not letting it fail a second time.
Right.
Like, he seems like the kind of guy that's like, if he's going to do something a second time, it's going to be a success.
And the thing is too, he's watched the AAF fail already. He's watched his former buddy,
Charlie Ebersol.
Yeah. Who no one seems to like now.
No.
Maybe Tom Dundon can get on board this XFL deal.
Oh my God. If we could get playing Carter Finley. Just give it to me.
So, but
this slowly becomes an XFL podcast.
Slowly, it's barreling at this point. But yeah, exactly. To see the issues that, I mean, he's already seen the mistakes the XFL in general has made. Now he's seeing the issues that the AAF has made, and I think he legit. And I mean, from me being a sports fan as well, I honestly think that there is room for lack of a better term, a minor league football system where you have arena football, which is not the same sport. It's kind of the same, but it's not. So, and you have college football, but you have certain players. I mean, there are certain players that can't play college football. That you have certain players that are done with college football and then didn't get drafted by the NFL, so they're sitting there on taxi squads where they can't actually, you know, show that, oh, well, I can actually, you know, be a quarterback and run an offense or something. So yeah, I think with the halfway decent production values and, you know, halfway decent players, that you could actually make a profit running a kind of minor league football type system. But
and if they can,
people who love football.
Yeah.
They want it like 12 months out of the year.
Yeah. My thing is too, like, and this will be the last of the XFL talk, then we'll get back to wrestling. Maybe. Surprise, that swerve. We're doing XFL all day today.
It was me, Austin. It was me all along. The XFL is me.
Yeah. if they can establish themselves as a good football league and then become that development league that I think the NFL so desperately needs, rather than having so many people that get drafted and are one and done in the NFL, and develop strong, high-level pro talent, because it's a different game at that level, that it's one of the most sustainable businesses of all time, right? It's like minor league baseball. It's like, minor league hockey. It's sustainable.
Yep.
That you've created that pipeline. So we'll see. They've got the TV contracts to do it. If there's one thing Vince is good at, it's television contracts.
Yes.
But anyway, man, so this news broke today while I was at work, and I was alerted by a text message, and I got really, really excited. Like, I couldn't, it was like in that moment, I saw every possibility in 1 millisecond. I felt omnipotent. Like, this is going to be a good thing, right? Tell me this is going to be a good thing. Tell me I'm not getting my hopes up for no reason.
I think it could be good. I mean, if you put Paul Heyman in charge of something, he's going to want, he's not going to just put his name on something and just be a figurehead in that sense. If you're going to say that he is in charge of, running the show, he is going to run the show. He's going to want to take the reins and run with it. So I don't think this is going to be, we're putting these guys in charge, but it's really a figurehead thing. It's going to be the same old crap in the background. I think it's something to get excited over. I mean, I don't know about the Bischoff aspect of it. I mean, I have questions about him. I've always been a Heyman mark. I mean, I come from ECW. Now, that's kind of the question too. Like, can Heyman really book a major promotion? Because
it's true.
And I'll say this. I'll go back to it. I'll go back to more sports analogies. Sorry, everyone that just follows wrestling. There are certain managers and head coaches that are masters of taking complete crap and turning it into like a watchable team. Like, I mean, you talk about, we'll try not to do this too much in Carolina, but you talk about Bill Peters. Bill Peters was given a garbage team and actually made it presentable. It wasn't like a playoff team, but he made that first year that he was here, he took a team that was gutted and made it into a competitive team, at least somebody that was actually halfway worth watching. Guys like Buck Showalter, who are brought in and generally take bad teams and make them good. But at the same time, these are coaches that, if they're giving good rosters, can't take that next step.
Right.
So is Paul Heyman one of those people? Is Paul Heyman a guy that can take something like ECW and take random assorted parts and misfit toys and turn it into something that's entertaining, maybe not the best promotion, but an entertaining promotion to watch, who is then given the keys to the kingdom and go, okay, now you have all the talent. Let's see what you can do with it. Where he can go, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, is he going to be one of those type of people, or is he actually going to take what's there and run with it?
It's a tough one. And that's one of the things, like, we're not going to have an answer to that question for a few months, right?
Right.
I think Heyman can do it, and I think having the WWE framework too helps, right? It's not like he's having to run the business and have Bubba and Devon pack the merch and Tommy do the books anymore. So he can focus in on the creative part alone, and he's got, and we say this all the time about WWE, right? Like, there's not anyone on that roster who isn't talented in some form, right? Like, whether it's just on the mic or in the ring or both or whatever. and it's using everyone to their best abilities to make the show rise, rather than here's the same 15 people for 3 hours every week.
Right.
And I think if there's, as you talked about with ECW, and I think if you look back at when he and Steph were running SmackDown too, like, he can take those mismatched pieces and make that work, and then take the top storylines and make those at least compelling, right? So I think we're going to get a lot better variety out of the show. And having him run that 3-hour block gives him the ability to do that.
Right, that's the thing too. He's got 3 hours to play with. He doesn't have 2 hours to play with. He doesn't have a 1 hour show. And I mean, that has its own challenges as well, because we talk about how well Triple H does with the NXT show, night in and night out. That's not Raw, that's not SmackDown. The NXT shows are pre-packaged, pre-taped 1 hour pieces that they can spread out and do whatever it is they need to over time. Like, it's more how wrestling used to be in that sense, where you can kind of, and they book for the long run. They book distinctively for the long run, where Raw and SmackDown, as we said in the past, have been booked for television. They're booked television shows, and pay-per-views are almost like a background aspect with that.
Yeah. Well, and Triple H booking NXT big show to big show, right? They have 5 takeovers a year. So you have the ability to ramp up to that, and then you have the come down, the fallout after, and then you start ramping up again. With WWE, with the main roster cadence now, right? It's every 3 to 4 weeks. And when they have the Saudi Arabia shows, if they do any other specials, it's even like 2 weeks later, we're at another pay-per-view. So you have to constantly book at such a high level to keep that it's unsustainable for one person like Vince with a team of writers to do. So my hope, too, with this is that the wild card goes away, the brand split comes back in full force. Maybe you just have, the WWE champion float back and forth. Cool. That's fine. I like that idea. But you have those distinct brands that I can focus on this. I can book my show pay-per-view to pay-per-view, and even if there is 2 or 3 weeks, I can tell a consistent story in that without being spread so thin with my, with what I'm thinking about. And then Bischoff on SmackDown, I think, is brilliant. A lot of the analysis I've seen of that is, given his, I guess you can say, prior work now in television production, he's used to dealing with networks. So he gets to be the conduit between WWE and Fox for in this first time giant network TV deal, or broadcast TV deal, I should say. Which is going to be needed if the story today that was true, that Fox is unhappy and has already called for meetings with their contract hasn't even kicked in yet. They're going to need that. So
yeah, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw. I mean, because I saw, for whatever reason, the news went like in 2 pieces to me. I heard about Heyman first. I was just like, oh, that's cool. He's always been kind of hanging around and, working bits and pieces here. Like, he's done the Brock stuff. He had input into the Rousey angle. I think he was working with.
He's worked with Bliss off and on.
Yeah. So I know that he's been kind of helping out here and there, that type of thing. So it's like, oh, that's cool. They're giving more stuff to run with. But I don't know. They called Conrad or something like that, and the Bischoff news came out of nowhere, and I'm like, Bischoff, like, why? Why suddenly do you go with someone like Eric Bischoff? Like because when they brought him in before, when they did the whole angle with him being GM and everything like that, he was purely talent. He wasn't booking or anything like that. They just put him in there and I just remember hearing about the whole thing when his whole run when on the Pritchard podcast, how they only wanted him, so they wanted him solely as talent to just come on and to kind of be him, but just kind of for that shock value. And Pritchard had mentioned how well he worked. Like, he was perfect backstage and did all the things that, you know, you'd want to do. And he understood that there was heat between him and certain guys, and that kind of got squashed and, you know, things like that. So he did everything that he needed to. And then they didn't need him anymore. And he understood that, and they kind of went their separate ways. Yeah. So see him actually being brought in and going, okay, now you actually have to do stuff. You have to go back to your WCW days. And you know, that had to kick Vince in the nuts a little bit to actually go, okay, here were my two competitors, like my biggest pains in the butt from like the late 90s. And I'm letting both of them run my
shows.
Biggest property.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But when I saw Bischoff being brought in there, that was that thought that I was like, Bischoff, wow, that's a weird choice. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, right, the Fox deal, yeah, that does make sense. Because if there's one thing Bischoff is he is his character, in that he could go into those corporate offices and shake everybody's hand, and you know, he knows how to deal with suits.
Yeah, that's what he's good at.
So that he is, the more I think about it, the more it sounds like almost the obvious pick to put him in charge of a program that's going to be dealing with Fox on a regular basis.
Yeah, and my only concern with Bischoff, I think, is also one of the greatest strengths of bringing him back. I can't remember when he left TNA. But he's been out of the business. He's been out of the business for a hot second, right?
Yeah.
So getting back up to speed on what wrestling is like in 2019 could be challenging. But at the same time, he's also been away. So he's been able to kind of observe where the product has gone and fan reaction stuff outside of that bubble, and gets to bring that perspective back into it.
And bless the podcast route, because all these guys start coming out with podcasts, and Pritchard gets hired again, and Bischoff gets hired again.
JR goes back to work.
Yeah, it's
basically, if you're on Team Conrad.
Yeah, can we get Conrad to pick up our show, and then we can start working into business?
I don't feel like doing Blue Chew reads.
I will do whatever read y'all want me to. I mean, again, listeners, do you want us to plug your whatever it is that you have? Because I like doing ad reads.
So here's what we need. We need Dundon to fund this, because, you know, Conrad's out there shilling subprime mortgages. We'll just get Dundon in here.
There we go.
We'll create our own. And then I finally get to create my promotion here in Raleigh. Like my PWG level promotion that runs out of Dorton once a month.
Hey, we've got a ring announcer.
I know. Yeah. You got that? I'm going to go train. I can be talent.
You
can be my manager.
Paul.
Huh?
No, see, I can't be a manager. That's one of my issues. So I think I've told the story before, but around 99, 2000, something like that, my friend worked for a wrestling promotion, and he invited me to come down to their first TV taping that they were going to have. And I come down and, you know, go into the dressing room, that type of thing. And he's like, you know, we'll find you a spot somewhere on the show so you can kind of, you know, be part of the group, but obviously not too much part, because, you know, you don't want to insult the boy by this guy just walking in off the street, that type of thing. So they made me guest timekeeper.
Okay.
So I was timekeeper throughout the whole thing, which was ironic because I had no way of keeping time, because I do not wear a watch. They just gave me a bell and a hammer and just like, okay.
I mean, that works.
But anyway, I mean, we weren't actually shooting time limits, so it is what it is. But So one of the things that we ran into is I'm in the dressing room and we're all walking around and stuff. And I realized that I am a good 4 inches taller than any worker they have.
Are you saying this was a vanilla midget promotion, Tom?
Most promotions are vanilla midget promotions.
True.
If you are a tall guy with a decent build, you are probably getting looked at by major promotions. And in fact, the main event wrestler for that promotion was a guy named Ken Anderson, who you would know as Mr. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Or Mr. Anderson in TNA or whatever the case may be. But Ken Anderson was their main event wrestler. So he actually was the correct height, but the rest of these guys generally were not. So what I had to do was they had me come down to ringside to make sure that I was at ringside. And they're like, okay, here's your spot at the ringside table. You cannot get up.
Yeah.
So, like, because that's the thing. If a wrestler comes around and I stand up for some reason, they realize, I mean, because the way that things are set up and you got mats and stuff like that, and these guys are wearing their boots, it's not that noticeable. But when you notice the goof that's at ringside wearing the promotion's t-shirt, that's the game, you know, the kid who rings the bell, who's actually 6'2", 220 or something like that, and legit bigger than 95% of the roster, it kind of kills the illusion a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially when one of their tag champs was maybe 5'6".
Oof, all right.
So, but he was billed as small, so
okay, well that works.
They knew that it was like a big little tag team.
Okay.
So there was like, he was kind of a fatter dude that was like, you know, like over 6 foot, and then the little guy that was like 5'6", maybe like $160, but he was the one that could do all the cool moves and stuff.
The most important question I have about this story, Tom, is given the fact that it is indie wrestling, what was your payoff that night?
I didn't get a damn thing except a free T-shirt.
Okay, all right. I was hoping for at least
I got to meet Jerry Lynn.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
I met Jerry Lynn, who is possibly the nicest person I've ever met.
Okay.
And yeah,
nice.
George the Animal Steel grunted in my general direction.
All right.
And he also flipped over the table that I was sitting at, which made me scatter.
Oh.
So that was the only time I actually stood.
You should have let the table hit you and take a bump. Sell the table, Tom.
I should have.
See?
Well,
then you would have never gotten up.
You got to understand, as adult who grew up watching George the Animal Steel, seeing George the Animal Steel in front of me, and again, the spot's completely unplanned. He didn't tell us that he was going to do this. So he just comes over and just flips it over. And I had to like go into kayfabe because I'm like watching this. I stand up, I watch it. I have the biggest like stupid grin on my face because like this is so cool. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be scared out of my mind.
Right.
Stop it. Oh no.
Run.
Hide or something. So
it's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Any other?
Best conclude Stories Incorporated.
Any other thoughts on Bischoff and Heyman? This is a developing story. This is gonna be long term here.
And again, I don't know. I mean, it's something that we may be able to go into more next show when we have a little bit more information. When are they? I mean, are they starting right away or?
So from what I've read, they're starting like they are on the job now. But I guess the other things I've read, like they're gonna let them slowly kind of assume into the role.
Okay, and that's good.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Should do.
Yeah,
like you don't need a Russo showing up like on Monday, going, "Okay, everything we've done, completely forget it. We're starting off from scratch."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like wrap up the angles, do the things that you need to do.
Yeah, my thought
bring
is
in whoever.
Yeah, my thought is at this point you let it roll till SummerSlam, right? Because that's a big capstone event, and then they start after that, right? Because we're already starting to build to SummerSlam a little bit. You can kind of see the path we're on, and then you have them take over. So the other big news this week. Stuff's been crazy since Sunday. We're obviously not even talking about Stomping Grounds, which I thought was a decent show.
Yeah, I
enjoyed
will
it.
Eventually watch it.
Yeah, I've
heard good things.
Yeah, it was fine. It was perfect. Even the main event that got completely dumped on. I knew it was going to be Lacey Evans, right? Because of course it was. Because we can't stop talking about Seth and Becky on television for some reason, which is fine. Whatever. That was the logical storyline choice. I'm good with it. So Twitter has been fun since Sunday. When Seth Rollins sends the tweet, and I have the entire tweet chain loaded here of everything that's gone back and forth. Seth writes, doubling down, best pro wrestling on the planet. See that cruiserweight triple threat, and that's just one night, one match amongst the many. Find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it, as often as I do it. You can't. And that was right as the show started Sunday night, right? So,
and he's been doing this, he's been kind of pumping the tires of WWE lately. And
he's especially, I think, I'm excited for 10 years down the road when we can hear finally, does he feel betrayed by Dean or John or whatever you want to call him in real life? Like, what's the situation there, right? Because there seems to have been some tension there as well. Anyway, Stomping Grounds ends. And Will Ospreay can't help himself and just writes, I'm alive. To which Seth responds, let's see, at 4:40 in the morning. I'm sorry, little guy. We already have a better version of you here, and he just won his first U.S. title tonight. Congrats, Ricochet. Keep working hard, though, buddy. So this is where we begin to break this down. And of course, now every fan is chiming in because for some reason, the whole WWE, AEW thing has taken the you're either with WWE or against WWE thing to a whole new level.
No one can like more than one thing.
Right. Like, it's either like when you, and it's been reading Reddit the last few weeks has been so toxic because it's either you're a WWE fan or you're an AEW fan, and you can't appreciate them both. Like if you cheer for WWE, you're anti AEW, and you're anti what they're standing for and what they're trying to do. And if you're an AEW fan, how dare you even talk about WWE? You're a shill.
It's almost like
stop.
a Hurricanes goaltending debate.
I'm just letting that play out. Can we just until we sign somebody, and then I'll comment. I don't even care. Hire the walrus from the Geico commercial. Done.
So does that make the WWE Cam Ward? That's a podcast in itself.
Tom, I think that's what we get drunk and debate one night and at release.
Mike Flanagan just had a testicle pop and he doesn't know why.
Is Cam... Okay, but what works better? Is Cam Ward the WWE or is the WWE Cam Ward? Whoa.
It's too late to actually fathom this, man. I'm kind of still on Vancouver time.
Okay, fair enough. So I have no problem with wrestlers going back and forth and having witty banter with each other. Seth, though, I want to stop you, Seth. Will's got a couple inches on you. Probably don't call him little guy.
That was the first thing when I saw that. I'm just like,
Seth?
This isn't Roman. Did you think you were Roman for a minute?
Yeah. And I'm like, And you know what? I'm all for talent from different promotions antagonizing each other, right? Especially like the guys that have wrestled together in other promotions. Like, go back and it's fun. It's good for the business as a whole, right? Like, everyone wants the Monday Night Wars to happen again, and they think that's what this is going to be. Even though everything's on a different night, so I don't understand what the issue is here coming up in October. But this is a little bit of that aspect, right? This is everyone fantasy booking. What if we had Twitter in the 90s?
Oh, God.
So Seth calls him little guy, which was dumb and kind of condescending, right? So Will just responds with a gif from the British office of Ricky Gervais that just says, "Ooh, you're hard." Good. 2 hours later, he claps back with fact of the day: Will Ospreay wrestled more matches in 2019 than WWE Rollins. Catch up, little guy. Kiss emoji. And the gif of Barack Obama dropping the mic at the correspondence dinner.
Yeah.
All right. Here's my issue, Will. Is it something to brag about that you wrestled more days and more matches? Like, is that an insult?
I mean, it's not a in demand thing. That's like an indie booking insult. Like, I did 7 shows the last 2 weeks. You only got booked for 3.
Right. And I'm like,
that's something you do when like you're both doing indie runs, but
yeah. But Seth works for one company where he's exclusive, and you pretty much kind of do whatever you want, Will. Okay. So that one confused me. And I was like, and people were like, oh, like, of course, Twitter and Reddit blew up at that point. We're like, yeah, they're right. Seth's a piece of crap. And I'm like, all right. So then Seth chimes in with, everything just completely disintegrates from here, both of their arguments. Seth says, I mean, if you want to talk numbers, we can compare bank accounts too. P.S. That's coming off a month off with a broken back. Seth, you work for $1 billion corporation. Will does not. You remember what it was like to bounce from indie promotion to indie promotion, Seth? Remember where you came from.
Yeah.
So then it goes on for a minute, and then the whole thing fell apart when Baron Corbin decided to chime in.
There seems to be a theme with Baron Corbin, like...
Which, I'm going to be honest, as much as I just, like, don't want to see him on TV for 6 months, we're just at that point. I feel him and Shane need to just go away for a while. Baron Corbin writes, more important fact, Baron Corbin have wrestled more matches in 2019 than Will Ospreay. Another fact, I don't actually know who you are. I just wanted to be a part of the convo. All right. I'm going to applaud Baron Corbin for this.
I was going to say, that's the best thing Baron Corbin's done this year.
Because he was clearly just sitting there like, I'm going to stir the pot real quick. And the best part was, he was probably near Seth when it happened.
It seems like something I would do as, like, someone that I'm near is, like, having some kind of flame war on Twitter. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to jump in the middle of this. Not being invited, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, he just jumps into it. Just like...
It was the most Twitter thing possible.
And it worked for him. It worked for his character. The rest of this is just like, I don't care about Ospreay and Rollins going back and forth. But it was just like so on character for Baron Corbin too.
Yeah.
To which Will Ospreay can't contain himself and responds, no wonder Raw sucks. Well, I don't think Baron Corbin's booking is his fault.
No.
I don't think Raw sucking is Baron Corbin's fault. Like, I'm tired of seeing Baron Corbin in the main event, and I don't think he needs to be anywhere near it. That's not his fault. And then, of course, who shows up? But Y2J. Who finally responds to Rollins and says, actually, he's taller and bigger than you. Then Ospreay, 2 hours later, releases a t-shirt that just says little guy. That you can buy.
Because Carney's got a Carney.
Yeah. He's released another one since then that I think it says Will freaking Ospreay or something. And it says burn Twitter down. I'm like, all right, you're jumping the shark here, kid. Roll it in. Yeah. I wanted to talk about this because I wanted it to go into a conversation of like, that's great that they're bantering back and forth. Who cares? They probably were texting each other the whole time. Because I have no doubt that Seth and Will Ospreay have some form of contact with each other, right? They're both top stars in the world. And doing this is nothing but good for the both of them, right? Because it gets eyes on both of them. But the fact that it creates this like even more toxic wrestling fan environment that's only going to get worse over the next 12 months. I hate it. Can't we just all be like, wrestling is great, and in 6 months' time, it's going to be even more amazing? Where does this whole you can only enjoy one thing, or be, like, where does that even start? Like, what is that even? I don't get it. And I understand the history of it in professional wrestling, going back to the Monday Night Wars, right? But even then, like, fans were watching both shows a lot of the time. Like, you taped Nitro and watched Raw, or the other way around. And you hear that story a lot, but now it feels like you have to choose, right? Like, and not that people didn't prefer one over the other, but like, why do I have to just like one thing?
But it's a thing. It's a fandom, and I mean, I can pull this in from comic books as well. I mean, you're always going to be labeled, are you a Marvel guy or a DC guy? Because that's just, and there's so many great comics out there. There's Image Comics. Just across the board, there's so much good content that's actually out there. But you're still going to be labeled, it's Coke or Pepsi. It's, just those type of things. There's always going to be this, like, flavor of what kind of fan that you are.
Right.
And wrestling hasn't had that since 2001. Because when WCW went away, there just stopped being, it wasn't, are you a wrestling fan? It's, are you a WCW guy? You're a WWF guy. Now it's just, oh, you're a wrestling fan. So now you have AEW, and it's trying to bring this. It's getting this argument back now that, like, and it's almost like, it just goes back and forth between the hardcore fans and like the mainstream fans. Well, I'm an AEW fan. Well, I'm alternative. I know. It's like, no, you just like Hot Topic, that type of thing. It's still going to go back and forth. But I also have some breaking news.
Ooh, like real legit breaking news.
I don't know how much newsworthy it necessarily is, but okay. Posted 1 hour ago on Instagram. Marty Scurll posts a picture of him shaking hands with one Paul Heyman with the quote, "so raw," #villain.
That's Marty trolling.
Yep. It already has 15,000 likes in an hour.
That's Marty trolling. I've got no doubt. I'm going to pull it up.
It's funny. Ryan Satin posted a picture of the Instagram post, and 1 Hour Tease replied to it saying, buy his shirts before he goes to WWE, and we have to take them off PWTs. So everybody's kind of rolling and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But...
Right. Good for Marty to work his way into the news today.
So, but it's still fun to see how much certain superstars are using social media, even outside of their like promotions kind of good graces and that type of thing. Because WWE's always been big on social media and, you know, putting stuff out there, and especially the 24/7 title or the 48/7 Intercontinental European, no, not Intercontinental, European television title.
And 48/7, as he said on Monday at one point.
Yes.
And by the way, that's still the greatest thing to have.
Yes.
The whole wedding angle over the weekend, brilliant. The 800 title changes on Monday night, brilliant.
Yep. The 24/7 title and Firefly Funhouse have been the only two reasons to watch WWE program lately.
Oh, and then this week, not even having Funhouse, but just seeing the puppets popping up in the background of like backstage shots.
Yes.
Like, it's so great. Like, oh God, I can't wait for it to finally happen. I don't want to be disappointed.
I love how Reddit has devolved into over-analyzing the Firefly Funhouse.
Oh, yeah.
How every character means something, and how every little like comment is an Easter egg. And
Bray created that mess on his own with the like, I hid all these sentences in promos, which like, to this day I believe he absolutely did not. He was just saying that just to see people lose their minds over it.
What a bunch of marks.
Yeah. In the last 20 episodes of this show, I've said one sentence that if you string them together, sounds like something I'd do. Anyway, let's move on real quick because we're coming up on an hour already. Flew by.
Yeah.
It flew by today.
Yeah, like it always does.
It does. Fighter Fest this Saturday from the CEO Gaming Convention in Daytona Beach, Florida. AEW's next show and the in-ring debut of Jon Moxley for AEW. So here's the card. Tom, you want to make predictions?
Sure.
Okay. Have you watched any of Road to Fighter Fest?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, this will be fun.
So let's see how many of these guys actually know.
So I'm going to let you make your prediction, and then I'll tell you what what's happening in this match. So does that sound good?
Okay.
It's more fun that way, I think.
Sure.
So let's talk about what's happening on the buy-in pre-show that starts at 7 or 7:30. And this show is free on Bleacher Report Live.
I was going to say, this show is free.
Totally free. Michael Nakazawa takes on Alex Jabali in a hardcore match. Who's going to win, Tom?
The first guy.
Nakazawa, yes. Nakazawa, an AEW talent, versus the CEO of the CEO of CEO. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Alex Jabali. Legit, the CEO of CEO, who just loves wrestling and wanted to wrestle. I kind of love that. Also on the buy-in, the Best Friends, Chuck and Trent, take on SCU, and they take on Private Party. It's a 3-way, and the winners advance to All Out for an opportunity for the first round bye in the Tag Team Championship.
I have to clarify. Is it Trent?
No, when he's in
just Trent.
Yeah, when he's in Best Friends, it's Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's disappointing, but I'll still go with Best Friends.
Okay. I like that. That's a solid prediction. I don't know. If you haven't watched Road to Fighter Fest, I think it was episode 2? They did a really great piece on Private Party and who they are, and talked about coming up in Brooklyn and learning to wrestle and meeting each other doing that. Really cool. Then finally on the buy-in, Kylie Rae versus Leva Bates.
Kylie Rae is the overly happy one, right?
Correct. Smiling Kylie.
Okay. And
Smiley
Leva
Kylie.
Bates,
Sorry.
Leva Bates, the former Blue Pants.
One of the librarians.
Right. I'll go with the smiley one because I don't necessarily understand the whole librarian thing.
I don't think
because there's more than one, and are they gonna fight each other?
Well,
or are
Peter
they a
Avalon, the
team?
other one's in her corner for this match. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if they know what's going on with that yet.
Okay.
All right, the main card. Triple threat match in the women's division. Yuka Sakazaki takes on Riho and Nyla Rose. I find the structure of this match very interesting in the fact that it's two of the Joshis and then Nyla Rose. So I feel like you're telegraphing that Nyla Rose is going to win it, right?
I guess. I mean that's pretty much your wrestler though.
Right.
Versus the although I mean I've seen Cody's mentioned that he wants to bring Joshi's there like every card pretty much. But
right.
I don't know how much they can really do that. I mean it seems like that's something that would be a little costly.
Yeah. I agree with that. But they've got the unlimited Tony Khan money. So Christopher Daniels takes on Shima.
I always go with Christopher Daniels because
his promo, I think it might have been in the first, maybe it was also the second, I don't know, episode of Road to Fighter Fest where he talks about, he's been in tag teams for so long and he feels like he's finally stepping out and this is his chance to prove himself and show he's still got it. Killer promo. Love Christopher Daniels. Four-way match. Adam Page versus Jimmy Havoc versus Jungle Boy versus MJF. So this one's tough for me because I'm like, Page is wrestling to become the first champion in a month. But if MJF beats these three, not that he needs to get even more like nuclear heat, but this would do it.
Let's see. I just see him getting the win in some completely heelish way, like Adam Page hits a finisher and is pretty much ready to make the pinfall, and then
MJF steals it. Yeah. That's kind of what I see happening too. I don't think it takes away from Page. If you book it that way, it does nothing to him. Moxley versus Joey Janela in a non-sanctioned match. I'd like to pause here and say I think non-sanctioned match is the dumbest stipulation you can put on a show on a match because it's on your show, on your card, in your building with your set and a ring around it. It's clearly sanctioned. It's the dumbest title you can put on something. Just say hardcore or death match or whatever you want to say.
Also, you've had one card.
Right.
It's not like you're sullying the history of AEW with this one.
Right. It's not like the
your board of directors
which one of your 35 executive vice presidents didn't want to sign off on this?
Yeah. Damn it, Brandy.
There's going to be so much blood. I just have a feeling.
Yeah, I really kind of want to see this because I want to see Moxley. I mean, I didn't really see him in CZW because I don't do that. Yeah, I was introduced to the character when Dean Ambrose came around, so I was like, I just not saying that I knew Goofy, knew him as just the goofy guy, but I mean, yeah, for the most part, I did. He was a guy that was tough. I knew he was tough, and I knew that he could take these bumps or whatever, and I knew he had the history, but I didn't really see that much of it. And seeing his match with Juice in New Japan, I mean, it was just kind of an introduction to, I think, what he's gonna be capable of, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think he's looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So, and inspired wrestlers do incredible things.
Exactly. I think he wins.
Yeah.
Because Janela doesn't either way. Everybody loves Joey Janela. Him losing, especially to Moxley, who cares?
I don't see Moxley losing anything anytime soon.
Yeah. 6-man tag action. The Elite take on the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. That gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I can see them putting the Lucha Brothers over this time, though.
Yeah, it seems like they haven't put them over that much to begin with, and they got their belts back, though, right? The AAA belts. I thought they did.
Did they? If they did, I totally missed it happening. Let me Google real quick here. Tag Team Championship. There we go. Come on, internet. First, I don't want to know who the current champions. Yep, they did on June 16th. So,
okay, so yeah, I thought it was recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
Yeah. And then Cody takes on Darby Allin, making his AEW debut.
I don't know who that is.
Darby Allin came.
I know who that is.
Maybe, probably not. He has been a big fixture in Evolve for a very long time.
Okay.
He's, I think it might have been the first episode of Road to Fighter Fest. I can't. It's all blended together. It's in there somewhere. There's only 3 of them. Just watch them. But they did a feature on him, and they talk about his, his kind of past and everything. And he does have some deathmatch roots to him, but he is also a very gifted technical wrestler as well. Young kid. There's actually an episode of The Wrestlers on Viceland where they kind of focus on him. It's the one about Evolve and Gabe Sapolsky, and they talk about Darby Allin in that a lot.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I've got those all queued up. I just haven't actually watched them yet.
That would be a good primer before this match.
I finally finished up. Yeah, I finally finished up Dark Side of the Ring. The Moolah episode was the only one that I needed.
Yeah.
Although actually, I haven't watched the Screwjob episode just because because it didn't necessarily have that much of an appeal to me, because I thought at least I know pretty much that story. So
there wasn't that much new to it, in my opinion. I mean, it was a good kind of recap.
That's kind of what I figured.
It'd be great if you didn't know the story.
Much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that match. It'll be great. Cody and Darby Allin. Glad to see him get that platform finally. I think that'll do it for this week.
Yeah.
And the Cheaters Never Pin podcast. So Tom, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Go on the Twitter machine at Mr. Workrate, at MR Workrate. Go to section 328, section _328, because they just posted the podcast that they had this week, which I also was on. So go download that as well and see how badly I did there.
And you almost failed to respect the underscore.
I almost did, yes. And
so
I will go in my corner and feel shame.
There you go. You can find me on the internet at JCBobbitt, JCBOBBITT, wherever finer social media is purveyed. You can find the show on Twitter at CheatersNVRPin, Facebook, Instagram. We're everywhere all the time. Listen to us on your Roku, the best room in your house. I think that'll do it for this week. Who knows what will happen in the next week? Because didn't think Bischoff and Heyman would be put in charge. So we've now entered the Kevin Garnett phase of professional wrestling, where anything is possible.
And figure if they're hired, then they can hire other people. So who do they bring in?
Marty Scurll.
Apparently.
Right. All right. So we'll get out of here. It's great talking to you all this week. Come back and catch another episode of the Cheaters Never Pin podcast next week. I'm JC.
I'm Tom.
And we'll catch you on the flip side.